The first question I ask is, do you have a creative brief together? And it's going to be one of two things, either yes or no. And if it's no, it's like you're a 7-figure brand or you're an 8-figure brand and you don't have a creative brief yet, which then it tells me everything about how easy it's going to be to get them to scale.
Yo guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Nick Theriot, and today I have a very special treat for you guys. I have one of my good friends today who has written copy for Jordan Belford, multiple 7- and 8-figure variety of different e-com info product brands, and has done over $25 million in revenue, specifically with copywriting. Guys, I want to introduce you to the only Nick Verge.
Another
Nick, what's going on, man?
Doing well, bro. I'm happy that we got the Nick dynamic, Nick at night, but it's Nick during the day. We're not at night just yet. So
when it's Nick at night, it's like a few whiskeys deep and everything.
we were talking about that one. It would be one more button unbuttoned would be if it was Nick at night with whiskeys. Yeah. Solid, dude. I'm excited. I got some gold bombs I'm gonna lay down here.
Awesome, man. Yeah, today we're gonna be talking about 3 specific tips or 3 specific mistakes that likely a lot of you guys are making with copywriting. Nick, and I'll just introduce you and everything, but if there's anything else you want to add to introduce yourself to the channel, please go ahead.
Nah, that's a pretty good way to explain it, man. I mean, I've written for people like Jordan Belford, written for people like Alex Jones, Bedros Keuilian, a couple other controversial characters that I just usually leave out of the title just because it's like, if you want to know, you'll reach out to me. But yeah, I've worked with a lot of the info product people. And then on e-commerce brands, I mean, I've worked with people like Sierra Madre by Sammy Ryan, which is like a clothing brand. Il Maquillage, which is like a skincare brand. So I've worked with quite a few of the 7- and 8-figure e-com brands as well. But the thing that I've realized is, like, a lot of the times the things that copywriters do is they shoot themselves in the foot by saying, well, I only specialize in info products. No, dude, you need to specialize in copywriting. And a good copywriter should be able to write for whatever. It doesn't matter, because what we're doing is we're selling. It's like telling a salesperson, like a really good salesperson can sell anything. It doesn't matter what it is. Like, sell me this pen. It's a famous one, not to like go back to Wolf of Wall Street, but like that's one of the famous ones, to sell me this pen. And it's because a really good salesperson knows how to sell anything. A really good copywriter knows how to write copy for anything, because you're just going through the same process as before, which is kind of what we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about what you prepared for us today, because I'm very curious about this. This is something that I've been waiting for to chat with you about.
Yeah, man. So it's interesting because when a brand brings me in, and they're like, hey, we'd like consulting, or we'd like for you to just kind of look at our overall creative messaging, everything like that. The problem a lot of times is that I kind of have to roast their stuff because it's very, very disorganized. And when I come in, and the first question I ask, and I'll just go through, it's 3 things really that we're going to talk about. The first question I ask is, do you have a creative brief together? And it's going to be one of 2 things, either yes or no. And if it's no, it's like you're a 7-figure brand or you're an 8-figure brand and you don't have a creative brief yet, which then it tells me everything about how easy it's going to be to get them to scale. If it's yes, I tell them to send it over to me. And it's usually like a 1-page doc, like, here's what we do, here's what we sell, here's how much money we've made. And they don't really understand like a full creative brief, what it is. So I really want to dive in. This is probably going to be the longest part of the video for the problems, but the creative brief, this is the main problem that I see most people having inside of their business, is they are so disorganized in their creative efforts. Creativity is beautiful because it's chaos. It's this thing that you have to pull from the ethereal and bring and actually, crystallize into writing, crystallize into creative. But that doesn't mean it's disorganized, because when you understand that really what creative is, it's the argument for your product and why your product is bomb and why it works. You have to keep your argument structured, just like a lawyer. I mean, how often, if you have a really good lawyer, are they ever slipping up on their points? Or no, they got everything. Like, they know every single point of the case, to the point where they can just rattle out statistics. Like, look at Ben Shapiro as an example. God forbid you get a statistic wrong around Ben Shapiro. Like, he's just going to go on you. He just go
nail on you.
Yeah. Just go, well, actually, and then he'll just go down the list. So a creative brief, what a really good creative brief does, is it takes all the chaos of your creative and organizes it. And why this is useful is a ton of different reasons, but just to start, let's say you go and hire Nick for, your actual media buying. To be able to hand Nick a creative brief, here's our company's creative brief, you just made his team so much easier. And I think the problem a lot of people have with hiring agencies is they just expect the agency, I'll hire them and then I'll get successful results. That's how it goes. a lot of it is dependent on how you onboard them or how you're onboarded, how much effort you give to giving them the information they need, how much you're kind of going back and forth with the team. It's not just take care of my brand, because if it was that, well, then give Nick 50% of your brand. That's not how it works. You need to be able to kind of look at them as a strategic partner inside of your business. So a creative brief, which I'll dive into like kind of what a setup of a creative brief looks like in a moment. But first of all, whoever you hire from, if you hire a sales rep, let's say you're an info product business, if you hire Nick as a media buying agency, an email agency, someone to do your design, someone to come in and help you with your branding, you're trying to get on like a news channel or whatever, it doesn't matter what it is. A creative brief just explains everything about your business from front to back to the point where the person's like, okay, this makes sense. Like, I understand this. It is a very, very in-depth look at the creative behind, or what goes into the creative inside of your business. That's the first thing. The second thing is it actually makes your advertising organized. So I see this a lot where someone will run an ad for a product and then it'll work. Like, let's say they ran 4 different ads. I'm using very basic numbers here just for math because I'm not a huge math guy, but 4 basic ads. Okay. And 1 works. The other 3 fail. Okay. So that 1 ad that worked, they're like, okay, awesome. This worked. It's going to die. It will die. You know, like the ad's going to fatigue. And they don't know why the ad worked. And a lot of that is because they haven't organized their selling points. So they just wrote up whatever piece of copy and they're like, maybe it's the creative, maybe it's the copy, maybe it's the discount, maybe it's the season. Like they don't really know what caused the freaking product to work or the ad to work. And when you have a creative brief, it removes that problem because you're making ads towards the specific parts of the creative brief. And so, you know, oh, hey, ad A worked. Well, that goes to this part of our creative brief. So we know, let's make 10 more ads about this part of the creative brief. And I'll touch on that here in a moment. So I would say those are probably the 2 main benefits of the creative brief, is it being organized. But then also, like when it comes down to a copywriter, I know that brand owners and like agency owners, when they have their copywriters, they kind of are just like, you know, it's the same thing. You're a copywriter, just figure it out. But you should care about the copywriter in a sense that you should give them everything they need to be successful. Just like if you're hiring an agency, you should give the agency everything they need to be successful, not just figure it out stupid. Like you want to give them everything they need. And really it's the copywriter's responsibility to make out the creative brief. But when they don't have that, maybe people who aren't doing copy don't understand. But it is kind of stressful to just sit down. I'm sure you can relate, bro. Just sit down in front of a blank Google Doc and just like, all right. And then you're just like sitting there like ready to go and you don't know.
That's like the biggest mistake.
Yeah. You just don't know what to write. I think back to that episode of SpongeBob where it was like him, like he just writes out and it's just at the top of the page is all he writes after hours. So when you have that creative brief, not only does it allow like an agency to know what they need to run. Hey, okay, we know which demographics we need to run and we know exactly which audiences we got to hit right here and all these keywords. We know everything we got to do. But then the other side for your copywriters, they know exactly what to write. And it's to the point where they can sit down and they can write down, okay, pain point A, B, C, D, E, boom. And now I'm going to go and write 4 ads for each. You're going to improve the efficiency of it too. I learned this from my main mentor, Ron Lynch. So Ron, I mean, if you guys know like OxyClean, Sonicare toothbrush, GoPro, like all these massive D2C brands, this dude was a creative genius behind all of them. I mean, the guy's done like $4 billion in infomercial sales. And he's a G. Like Ron's the big G. And so he understands marketing basically better than anyone else. And this is the main thing that was a really big revelation for me, was that before I even start writing copy for anything, creative brief, because you're writing the copy ahead of time, honestly. So a creative brief looks like this. To start, what you do is so it's just like a Google Doc. You can write it out, and I can even provide a template to you guys if you want to have it afterwards. So the first part is, what's the problem? Because I don't even know how many times when I go into a company and I'm just like, okay, what's the main problem you guys solve? SaaS businesses are the worst at this. Well, and then they give a super complicated explanation. I'm like, now in English, what's the problem? Like, what's the main problem you solve?
Reminds me of the PayPal one, or if you look like the PayPal, or like they used to describe it, like we're an encrypted network, yada, yada, yada. That's like, that? We send money over internet and then
yeah, it's exactly that. So people have a tendency to overcomplicate it, but what you really need to look at the problem is, it's not just something as simple as like, oh, like people struggle to send money over the internet. right, like really expand into the problems that people are having here. And this is where what I tell people to do, especially with like D2C products and overall just ecom products, go to like Amazon and find similar products to that. Go to the product, go to reviews, go to 1-star reviews, and read a bunch of Karen reviews and a bunch of angry people who are just, they're going on and on and on about their issues with the product. And you will start to see what the problems are, and also read the 5-star reviews because they'll outline their problems that they had before the product as well. When you really, really dive into those problems there, and so you have it where what's the problem, and you have a nice little, let's say 2-3 paragraphs explaining the problem and how your customers solve that problem, or how your product solves that problem. And then you have it where there's just bullets of all the problems that person's encountering on a day-to-day basis. Let's say I'm going to use a couple different examples throughout for these 3 areas, but let's just say a skincare brand. So what are the problems these people are having? They either have super oily skin, and it's to the point where, even just a slight change in their diet, where they have a little bit more fat in their diet than normal, causes them to break out. They have very dry skin to the point where they're just getting itchy and shit. They're having like these like little dry patches and everything like that. Or, it's the point where they've tried a bunch of skincare creams and it doesn't really work on their skin because they have very sensitive skin. Like, we could just go on and on and on and on and on with all the problems these people are experiencing. So that alone, if you were to get a list of here's all the problems and it's organized out, here's paragraphs explaining our customer demographic and what the problem is that they're experiencing. And here's kind of what a lot of people also forget is that you probably have multiple demographics for your product. It's not just one and we only work with this person and that's it. You probably have a couple. They have a couple different problems as well. But if you then list out all the problems and then you go and you list out all of those different, the 3 different paragraphs that just explain the problems itself, well, now what you've given your copywriter, or the copywriter, when they're able to actually go and write from that, they know, okay, well, if I'm going to write an ad, why don't I write an ad that starts off with the problem itself and just directly states the problem out loud? What they can go and do, let's say you wrote out 10 problems, okay, that your product solves. And then you go and you write out your ad copies and you do, let's just say 10 different ads. Okay. And ad 1 is problem 1. Ad 2 is problem 2. Ad 3, so on and so forth, all the way through. Now, when you go and test, ad 3 worked, ad 7 worked. All the others flopped completely. Well, if ad 3 and ad 7 work, that means those problems hit they just hit at home where the other ones don't. It means it just hit harder for the audience. So now you're starting to see kind of like the organization of it. You can see, okay, this is way better. Another part of a creative brief would be features and benefits. So I like that a lot of people go into, when they're trying to sell a product, they go into features and they think features are benefits. They're not really. So let's use the acne cream, or like the acne protocol kind of thing. So they're saying like the salicylic acid, AHA, BHA formula soothes your skin. The soothes your skin part is the benefit, but we can expand outward on that as well. So let's say that we had the features. So it's salicylic acid, it's BHA, it's AHA, it's PHA. And then we can go in and we can expand on the benefits of why salicylic acid works really well for your skin. Okay. It helps you blank so you can blank. It helps you just go into that. That's the formula for benefits. Helps you blank so you can blank. So washes away the impurities on your skin so you can have cleaner, more brighter, more vivid looking skin. And then, your audience, your demographic, which we'll talk about that kind of on the third point, but they may have different, things that they want for their benefits. So a 60-year-old grandmother at that point, almost 60-year-old grandmother at that point, has a very different benefits she likes for her skincare routine versus a 25-year-old girl who's still in her like hot girl summer phase. So those 2 different areas, like that, let's just say it gives you a glow so you can pop off on Instagram. Pop that, sis. Like that's the way you're talking to them, versus like have that beautiful, elegant look. 2 very different ways of communicating the same message. I don't want to get too off track here. I want to go into that third part when we get to that's the third part right there of the different demographics, different messaging. But when you talking about features and benefits, like feature, let's just use, again, I'm going to use a completely different product now on this part. Let's say feature. Let's say you have like a coaching program that works around like how to scale your agency. Okay. Feature. Like we give you a list of leads every single month, 500 leads every single month for you to go and run, targeted towards your audience. Okay, boom. Benefit, save time so you don't have to go hunting for leads and have qualified customers literally coming to you and for you ready to dial right away so you don't have to waste time. Benefit, features, benefits. The simplest way to think about it is like this. This is the funniest story that I remember Ron telling me this. It's when it clicked for him. And it clicked for me at that moment too, is he was at a food convention and he had to pitch this food processor and it was making guacamole and it was like really good guacamole. And they figured out the best pitch for the food processor was, do you want great guacamole? And they would just hand them the chip with the guacamole and the person would try it, but that's really good. And then what they would dive into after that is like, people are literally going to want to come over to your house just for the guacamole. Benefit, feature makes, the features, the processing and all the type of stuff. Benefit makes great guacamole. There's a benefit behind the benefit as well. You make great guacamole. Well, then here's all that. So that's the part that I think a lot of people need to realize. There's features, there's benefits, and then there's benefits behind the benefits. So let's go back to the skincare example. Feature, it's salicylic acid inside of it. Benefit, clears out impurities. Cool. Why do they want to clear out impurities? This is where I think most copywriters, the main mistake they make, and this is with all areas of life, when you're first starting out and you're a beginner, you don't really understand it all that well. It doesn't matter what it is. You're thinking on a surface level. So for guys, like I go to the gym because I want to get girls, that's like the surface level, versus like I go to the gym to like really focus on myself and to really worship the throne of my body and worship the temple of my body, really give it what it needs. It's a much more deeper explanation of it. So same thing there. Most people think only of the direct benefit. Oh, it clears out impurities. There is a benefit behind the benefit. This is thinking 2 layers deeper. And this is where you really dive into your demographic and why do they want that? Why does a 6-year-old mother want it that it clears out the impurities? Why does a 25-year-old Instagram influencer want it that it clears out the impurities? Very, very different ways of thinking right there. I don't see a lot of copywriters thinking at that level when they're writing. What they're doing is they're just going and they're looking at what are the competitors doing, and let me just copy that. And don't get me wrong, that can work. But if you're really trying to get it to the point where, we're in a different market now where ads are fatiguing faster than ever. You have to really be on top of your stuff. You need to be organized. You need to understand the features, benefits. You need to have those dialed in so you can write ads targeted to those things. Is that making sense so far?
Yeah, that's definitely making more sense, especially too on what you said about the deeper on the why. I really love that too, because that's something that another one my mentors have told me about. And it definitely improves from connecting people on that deeper level, from an emotional connection towards your ads, which is really cool too as well.
Absolutely. So another section of the creative brief that, I think just it further drives home a sale is reasons to believe. If you put someone on the spot, like take your copywriter and you just tell them, why should I believe anything you just wrote in this copy right there? Most of the time they're just gonna, because they don't really know how to do that. I want everyone to kind of think back to that example I gave with Ben Shapiro. We all know who he is for the most part. If I say, well, why is that the case? Well, actually 67% of 30% of 30, like he can just rattle out statistics like crazy that just prove his point right away. Your copywriter needs to be able to do that for your product. So why should I buy creatine monohydrate that's pure and not from a synthetic source that comes directly from proteins? Why should I buy that right there? That copywriter needs to know from start to finish all the statistics, all the stuff around it, the fact that 90% of all the different alternatives on the market actually are synthetic, even though they say they're pure, they're not, because they're not derived from proteins. And so they need to be able to understand these things, because what it does then is it's the logos behind your actual argument. The logos, the logic of like, hey, you can't deny the logic. And if you start off an ad with just the pure logic here, 76% of whatever, you rattle off a statistic on it, you're going to appeal to an audience that really likes logos. And this kind of goes into, again, I don't want to go too much into number 3, but different audiences like different arguments, and your ad copy is just an argument. So some audiences like a pathos-based argument, which is all emotion. And this is going to be stories, which is the next one we're going to be talking about. Next one is an ethos-based one. This is authority, influencers, people having brand authority, testimonials, stuff like that. The last part's logos. This is logic. These are your like, think of lawyers, think of doctors, think of accountants, think of very analytical. They need proof and they need logical proof for it. I would say that, I mean, every market's different, but just by baseline, you should think that every single market is 33% all around on those different ones, because people are pretty consistent on that. It's everyone's different. When it comes down to the logic, having reasons to believe just set up for you makes your copywriter's job a lot easier, because then instead of them always having to dig for it, let's say they're writing a piece of copy. Oh, how do I prove that? Oh, reasons to believe, boom, copy, paste. Now we're improving their workflow. They can pump out more copy. They can be more organized. They can split test with it as well. Hey, what happens if this ad's working? What if we swap out this statistic right here with a different one that we found? Does it work better? Again, we're organized. We're keeping this thing like really, really pumping. So I'll give a template for a creative brief. I'm going to send one over to you. I'll give the one I did for Jordan Belford. And then I'll also dive into, I'll give them just like a blank template that they can go through on that. And they can go and make their own creative brief. I don't want to spend, here's every single part of the creative brief, because that would be the whole video if we're just going to go through that. But I wanted to just touch on that. And so people can see, oh, if I really organize my selling points, I can pump out way more way more effective copywriting, because it's all about organization to start. Everyone thinks that it's like, I'm Hunter S. Thompson and I'm going to do cocaine 3 times before I write copy, and that's what's going to crank out good copy. Because I mean, to be fair, a lot of copywriters are kind of mentally ill. Like the more I meet them, the more I'm like, I think I may be one of the few mentally sane ones, even though I'm a weird guy. I'm not off the rails all the time, but it is a organized craft. The really good ones, all the really good copywriters I've met, all the genius marketers I've met, are extremely organized. And just like with media buyers, they are so organized on like, here's how we're organizing out every single ad campaign, every single ad set. They are extremely organized with their efforts. Good copywriters are extremely organized in their ability to produce creative, because all their points are on one location where they can go to. Yeah.
I love that. And I can attest to that as well, too, because we've seen the biggest impact in our agency for our copywriters. Well, once we started, even our creative guy too, as well, once we started putting together a proper brief before, and really hitting on specifically what you said, those specific key points as well. And even digging a little bit too in like the desire and sophistication awareness as well. Which is, and my copywriter was like, yo, I love this so much because it allows me to focus my thoughts going into writing copy versus just, hey, I'm writing copy.
Yeah. Well, in that part right there where they're saying, hey, I have to like think about it. For a lot of times what the copywriter is thinking when they first get on board onto a project and they don't even have anything given to them, they just have to figure out, where's this market at? Like, I don't even know anything about this market. A lot of times they're kind of new to it. So when you can just hand them, hey, actually, here's the market sophistication, like what you said, here's where we're at. We're probably at a level 4 right now. We're kind of competing on mechanisms. So what we need is just a better mechanism. Or, hey, we're at level 5 right now, meaning we've tried just about everything and the market really understands our product. So I think we need to try some new and improved different arguments. That may be influencer campaigns. I mean, there's a ton of different ways to do it, but yeah, understanding that level of just being so detail orientated on that creativity side of things and not letting the creative process be chaotic, it's going to help you a lot. I mean, I wish I could tell someone, it's like, here's this one line that gets you 50% more response rate, or this one style of ad copy that gets you, that's hogwash. That doesn't work no more.
A false dream right there. It's a dream we all dream of, but a reality none of us will live.
Amen, dude. It doesn't work. So that's the first part. It's the number one mistake I see people making is the creative brief. It's that they don't have one together. I mean, God, dude, if I had $100 for every single time I walked into the company, I was like, can I see you guys' creative brief? And they don't have one, I'd be a millionaire by now. It's just like, it's ridiculous. So that's number one. Number two. Number two would be that people focus. I talked about the features and benefits thing. And those ads work. Like, we've all seen them. I'm sure you've seen it 1,000 times, dude. Features and benefits work really, really well. So if you were just to say, let's go back to that skincare kind of example. So with a proprietary salicylic acid blend, this clears out impurities, allowing you to have brighter, glowier, better looking skin. And then they'll be like, use promo code blank at checkout. And then, I mean, hey, those ads work. Like, don't get me wrong, they work. But I think a lot of times what happens is people focus, they're like, oh, this is working, I'm only going to do this. Well, what happens when that stops working? Because eventually that's what happens. It's just with these ads, they die out and you need to try new things. And also, especially in the market of where we're at, is that the second that you start doing that, so let's say you created a features benefit ad that worked really well, and it's like, oh, okay, this is solid. Your competitors are watching you. You think they're not going to steal your crap? Of course they're going to steal your stuff. They hand that off to their copywriter, and their copy's like, okay, let me literally just copy and paste what they said basically on it. Let me tweak a couple words with it. Our proprietary AHA formula, and then boom, like it's the exact same thing. And so eventually your market sees it enough times to the point where they're like, I don't really want to buy this anymore, or I'm just seeing the same thing everywhere. So stories to me, I think, are way more effective than features and benefits, because you can include features and benefits in your stories. And this works really well with, because I know a lot of people that work with you. You're mainly an e-com agency, right?
Yeah, we do primary e-com, and we also do a little bit of lead generation and info products as well.
Nice. Yeah. So I mean, with the e-com people, if you're using, let's say, an influencer campaign, let that influencer tell their story. Like, you're hiring this person for a reason. And I remember it was a skincare brand that I was working with, and I'm using this example because it's just top of mind for me. And they had this influencer campaign. They were trying to use stories, and I was like, that's not her story. And they were like, why? How can you tell? I'm like, that's so clear that a man wrote that story. And they laughed, and they're like, it is a man that wrote that story. And I said, okay, let's get in contact with the influencer and ask for her story. And they were like, huh, we hadn't thought of doing that. They just look at the influencers, the pretty face and 70,000 followers or 100,000 followers. They don't think, hey, we're actually collabing with this person. Like, let's actually get their story. So we called the influencer, got them to give us their story. And overall, like, hey, have you seen this happen? Well, actually, no, I haven't really seen that happen, but I have seen this happen. And it was, she doesn't have dry skin, she had more oily skin. And so she was explaining that she's like, she really tries to take control of her fitness. And she had it to the point where if she would just increase her fats just like a little bit, she would start breaking out and everything. And so she had to figure out, like, what is it? And she realized it was because her skincare regimen wasn't really structured at all. So she was like all structured with her fitness, but wasn't super structured with her self-care on it. And so to the point where her face was breaking out. And so I was like, here's a whole demographic of your guys' audience, these fitness girls who are really focused on that, but it's the skincare routine's not working, or they don't really have it in place. And so, talking about a little bit of a change in a diet can cause your skin to break out. A girl, all of a sudden, she's like, oh, I never thought of that I added a little bit more fat to my diet, and now all of a sudden my skin's breaking out. And so we go and we write like an actual piece of ad copy. She didn't write the ad copy, but we did it based off of her experience on it. And it was like, oh, this was working way better than the other. Of course it is, because it's the truth, not just something that someone wrote up in like a corner of the office and just got it together. I'm imagining like this typewriter and everything, but no, like, it's the truth. So stories, to me, they just sell way more effectively, because what it allows the audience to do is to see it from that perspective and put themselves in that perspective. So I gave an example with an influencer campaign. I want to give an example with more of just, let's say, the product telling the story. So I'm going to use the X3 bar as an example, because I'm actually talking with that guy, John Jaquish. Have you seen that before, the X3 bar?
Oh, I haven't actually.
You have it? Me too. Look at that. We're both believers of the product right there. It's a good product. Whenever you got to get a quick pump in, if you ain't got time, solid. It's a solid thing. If you guys don't know what it is, look it up. X3, like literally just the letter X3 bar. I think it's x3bar.com even. They got that real estate.
I'll have to check this out.
Yeah, just see if they got that. I mean, buy it. It's a great product. So I don't really see them telling stories on their campaigns. So a proper story for that, and you have to, again, this is the next part, we'll talk about demographics, but a proper story for that for me would be, how many times have you seen this happen? You go to the gym, every single piece of equipment that you want to use is being used. It is packed in that gym. You have to wait around. You have to try different workouts. It's all of a sudden you're in the gym for an hour, 2 hours just to get work done. You're not really seeing steady progress in your gains. It's not really working. What if I told you that, and then we go into the contrast of things, the common way that everyone's following for fitness is actually completely wrong. And this is exactly what Jaquish talks about inside of his product. And he has all the statistics inside of his book where he, explains why conventional weightlifting is bad. Now, I'll just be real. I love conventional weightlifting. I just got done deadlifting before this. There's nothing that makes me more satisfied than just like a solid deadlift session. So, but that story versus like, hey, get quicker, better, more effective workouts in with the X3 bar versus telling the story of, yeah, I have had that happen. When I go to the gym and every single machine is being used, and like this is literally me like 2 days ago, and I was thinking about this. I'm like, God, I gotta like figure out a different time to go to the gym. But I'm like, thank God I have flexibility in my schedule. Because imagine if you're the guy who gets off at 4 and you only have really an hour and a half for the gym because you have kids at home, they don't have flexibility. They can't. They're not. What are they going to do? Get up at 2 a.m. to go to the gym? No, they don't want to do that. So explaining the story of your customer and their experience, and then kind of putting in those features and benefits into that, it makes it so much more effective. And you can see which style of story actually helps. And this is where I think a lot of copywriters, they feel like they're not in a creative role. They feel like, oh, it's marketing. It's not really like creative. No, be creative. It's okay. This is what gives the brand the actual voice behind it. You have to realize who you're writing for. Like, you're not going to write like a badass entrepreneur to like 25-year-old women. Like that doesn't really work. The Sean Whalen and Garrett White voice doesn't work for them. It doesn't work there. But this is where you need to be creative. You need to think outside the box and think about, okay, how would I tell this story of it? If you can't think of it on your own, meaning like, let's say you're writing for a turmeric supplement or something like that, and you don't have bad joints, go on Amazon, go to the products, read the reviews, and just go through it. You will be shocked how many people list out their entire life story on an Amazon review of like, I started when I was 30 because I got in a car accident and this, and this, and it's only gotten worse, and my father doesn't love me, and like all these different little examples. They'll just like use it as therapy almost. But you can see these people's stories and you will start to see consistent ones. Now there's always the odd one out where it's like the person's like, I actually fell out of a plane. And like, that's not a common story for someone. But like for these types of supplements that suppress joint pain, tons of these testimonials are people saying, hey, I was a weightlifter for years and I'd really pushed myself to the limit where all of a sudden now I just couldn't really hit it hard in the gym anymore. That is a consistent story. Tell that story. Stories sell. Stories are the number one thing that sell. And so I think a lot of copywriters are so used to just, oh, I'm going to do features and benefits, or they're just looking for a mechanism that they can throw in our unique proprietary blank mechanism or blank method or blank whatever it is. That's great. Those things work. We want to do more things that work though. Because I also don't like when people are like, that doesn't work. What is the number one thing? They're dead. X is dead. Email's
doesn't
dead.
work anymore. It's dead.
Facebook's dead. Yeah, I'm solid. Yes, one of the largest ad platforms of all time is dead. Makes sense.
I literally had this conversation just before this call with like a humongous tequila brand that's interested in us running their ads. Oh, Facebook is dead now. Have you tried Tripwell? Attribution? No, we just rely on Facebook ad reporting data. I'm like, oh, that's the number one mistake you're making.
100%. They don't get it. So it's like the intricacies they don't understand. Well, same thing with these techniques. I don't like when people say things like features and benefits ads don't work, or like, the standard templatized ads don't work. Those work. These are like, everything can work, guys. But you need to look at how can I do more things that work? Because this is when you really like think about it from a perspective of diversifying your assets. You're diversifying your marketing across many different experiences. And then also think about it that like the way I look at it sometimes when people do it is just imagine that, like, here's how I do it. Is imagine someone came to your door, okay? Knocked on your door. Hey, you want pest control? No, I don't need pest control. I'm all good. And they leave. And then next day they come back, bang on your door. Hey, do you want pest control? Dude, I told you yesterday, I don't need pest control. They leave. Next day, same thing, over. Eventually you're going to like call the cops on the guy because it's bad. People do this with their advertising, where they retarget with the same messaging over and over again, the same benefits over and over again, the same style of ad over and over again. And the prospects just worn out. They're like, I already know this. Like, I don't care that I get 50% more effective workouts. I don't care that whatever, they don't really care about that all that much. you have to try different styles, then try different retargeting strategies with those styles, because you never know that story that you told about, let's just say for the turmeric supplement, of it suppressing the guy's ability to really be able to go hard in the gym. That's what sold the guy, not seeing, oh, your joints hurt, whatever. Seeing that, yeah, I can't go past 50s anymore. I used to be the badass pumping out 70s on shoulder press. And he's like, you know what? I do need to do that. And he buys it from there because you told the story that's his life. So number 2 mistake I see is people getting too comfortable on just these direct selling ads, these direct selling style of just features, benefits. You got to get creative. You got to tell stories. And this is where you got to let the copywriter flex their creative bone a little bit. If they don't have it, their creative muscle, you can't flex a bone. Their creative muscles a little bit. This is where there has to be a little bit of that meet Wendy, and then just tell Wendy's story. Those things are what really people relate on. I don't see it really being focused on as much anymore. I see a lot of, when I look at D2C goods, I see a lot of just feature benefit ads. When I look at info product ones, it's problem, benefit, solution ads. People are just running through the same formulas. Whereas when I see story ads, that's what I actually read when it's immediately my story. And I'm like, I have that problem right away. Like the first line at the start of a story, it just works right away. Words to me are like spells. And think about like down back to childhood when you were a kid. Let me tell you a story. You got so excited when it was story time, when your parents are about to read stories to you. Stories sell. So starting with, let me tell you a story about why blank happened, and that's the main problem of your product solves. Now the person's like, let me read this story real quick of what happened. I mean, you see it everywhere. So that's the second thing, is copywriters not really trying to work on stories because it's a little bit too much outside of their creative realm, but stories work very, very well. This is why, you look at it with like ClickBank products, for instance, these wild stories that just, oh my goodness, like they appeal to probably like the lowest IQ of the population, but they sell really well because stories work, guys. Like I would 100% say that's a huge issue I see a lot of copywriters not wanting to focus on. I'm sure you've seen that in your own internal teams, and then on stuff that you're taking on where it's just all the same style of ad. There's no really like diversification of the style they're telling the story or whatever.
Yeah, diversification is huge. It helps a lot with just overall ad fatigue as well too, when it comes down to your ad campaigns and everything.
100%. All righty. So that's number 1. That's number 2. How am I doing so far?
Doing solid, man. I think you're dropping some absolutely amazing value on this channel right now. Those who agree with that, make sure you hit that like button and drop a comment below too. What so far you've been enjoying,
and subscribe. Don't
and
forget
subscribe.
Give that man a subscription.
You can't miss the subscribe button. So, number 1, we had the creative brief, build a better creative brief. Number 2, telling more stories, and number 3, I'll let you dive into it.
So, number 3 is understanding that I think a lot of people dive into this thing where it's like, I have one demographic. It's very rare that I find a product that has one demographic. Okay. So different demographics mean different messaging. Okay. And a lot of times what happens is an error is that someone's demographic is here, but their messaging is here. And so it doesn't hit this. And then their pricing is also up here. So the people are never buying it because the messaging's here. I'm going to give a practical example of this, because right now we're in theory land. And as much as I love theory land, I need to get down to like actual like logic and logos land of here's how this actually works. So the belief you have to show you guys. So I came into a dating company and they were doing it was just dating coaching offer. Think about the guys that they've tried like every single PUA program, and it's just weird. For people who don't know, it's a pickup artist thing. It's just like walking up to girls and trying to get their number. It's these weird little scammy tactics that they teach these guys. And some of them are good, but most of them are just, they make you come off as a weirdo. So I came in this program, and the product they were selling was at $5K. Okay. But the messaging was basically for $100 product. So their messaging was, and we're going to get a little PG-13, maybe a little bit R-rated on this channel, but their messaging was date every single woman possible, sleep with every single woman possible. This is the most effective program. You'll be able to woo, like you'll be able to tap into, what was it? Her attraction mechanism was the thing. Just these unbelievable claims. So you have to understand that really what marketing is it's creativity for the writing, it's economics for the advertising, and then it's markets. And markets kind of tie into creativity, but markets are, I would say, a little bit separate. Understanding the market is what really ties into the economics. Okay, so if I'm selling a 5K product right now, this may be, I saved the best for last. This is the big thing that I see people fucking up and just messing up in general. But if I'm selling can I cuss on the channel? Is that fine?
Yeah, you're good to go. I do it all the time.
Sure. I may have to censor it, but that's good. All right, good. So if you're selling a 5K product, but your messaging is appealing to the dumbest of the dumb, like very low IQ individuals, you need to think about those people that are low IQ individuals. What is their common like? What's their common salary at? So if that person, if their common salary is like 50K, so I think the average salary is 60K a year. Mm-hmm. So if it's 60K a year, so 5K a month, you expect someone to spend their entire month's earning on your product, but your messaging is tailored towards them, but your pricing is all the way up here. It doesn't match. So this is the same thing we were seeing inside of that dating company, is that their messaging was this like, just scam me. And you got to think about it. Like, what guy is really going to believe that I could like say one thing that then makes the girl like listen to me? I mean, come on, man. Like, we all know that's not real. You got to be like, anyone that's actually sophisticated enough knows I need to have my income on point. I need to have my body on point. I need to have my overall mindset on point, my house, everything. Like, if I want to get a top level girl, I need to be a top level man. It's not difficult for a man to understand, but those guys that are at the bottom of the rung, those guys at the bottom, they believe there's some sort of hack that they can access. And so what I started to do when I came into this company was I looked through their applications, and I actually got a pretty good analysis of these guys, because we have what's your occupation, how much money do you make a year, all this to answer these questions and everything like that. The messaging, what it was bringing in, and this is instantly what made me realize, oh, okay, we're just messing this area up. It was a very simple fix. I looked at the applications. We had deli workers, we had bus drivers, we had, I think there was one guy who was on welfare that I saw, which was interesting, and he was like trying to buy it. It seemed like he could, right? Like, it's strange. I don't think that's what you got to worry about, bro, is dating. But like all these very base level applications, like warehouse workers, stuff like that, just guys who are like at the bottom of like the value pyramid, like they're just working minimum wage jobs and stuff like that. And I'm like, well, no wonder the messaging is appealing to them, because this is what these guys believe. So I was like, we need to change the messaging entirely, man. So what it was is I stopped focusing on these guys. I got rid of all the slimy, dirty stuff. I was like, this is why you guys can't scale past 100K a month. It's because it's like you're selling this like slimy stuff, and you're going to get your ad account shut down. I'm shocked that it hasn't happened yet. So let's just kind of change this now before it's too late. So the messaging then became, okay, we're selling a 5K product. Who's going to be able to buy a 5K product? Probably someone making around, I would say, upwards of 120, 100, above 120K a year, because they're making upwards of 8K a month. They probably have a little bit saved up, and it may be a little bit more. Okay. Busy professionals and entrepreneurs are the ones in that category. I thought about, no shit, people like you, people like my friends that run agencies, people that whatever, the sales reps, guys like that, guys who are busy professionals or entrepreneurs. Those guys, because they actually have that side of their life together, they're not dummies. So we don't talk to them like dummies. We tell them the truth. Hey, you're a great guy. You just don't know what you're doing when it comes to women. We want to give you a simple blueprint strategy that you can follow with women that's easy and repeatable, saves you time, makes it simple for you to understand exactly what to say to a woman, so you can be able to get one new date a week. That was the other thing, is they were saying 5 to 7 new dates a week. That sounds like a headache to me. Any guy who's actually busy with busy leads to income, 5 to 7 dates a week sounds like there's no way I can do that. I need to be retired.
A little bit much.
A little bit much, but that's
every week, every day. That's
every day.
Insane.
I mean, sometimes you need to do 2 a day if you're really gonna get into it, because you have to. Maybe you have a day where you can't go on a date. But my God, they were just like adamant on that's the messaging.
Just imagine the quality of that.
It was awful. I think they were averaging like 1.1 ROAS on it. And sometimes even some months, I remember looking, it was like 0.3 on the ROAS. Yeah, of course, wow. Because look at what you're doing. So
and just to circle back for everyone that's listening, they were doing a 1.1, 0.3 ROAS, and this is just on the landing page and like their VSL side that you adjusted a lot of this copy. I mean, I know it was probably on both sides, but
yeah, I mean, that was the only offer they had. And it was like, everything after that we went for was the audience that we already had. And Oh, I mean, dude, it was a whole story, but the strategy that I'm laying out took them from 1.1 ROAS to 3.64 ROAS. So I changed the messaging on the VSL, on the ads, on the landing page, on everything, just total messaging. It was no longer attraction mechanism, blah, 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 appealing it. No, very specific. This blueprint helps busy professionals and entrepreneurs benefit. I can't remember my exact headline that I used for it, but then the entire thing was just explaining to them, hey, like a lot of guys think that something's wrong with them. And so they go back into this cycle of, I just need to hit the gym more. I just need to make more money. Dude, I'm telling you right now, you could be with an absolute stunner. You could be with someone that just makes you go, wow, and makes you feel amazing. You don't have to go to bed alone at night thinking about, just, oh, what could have happened and everything like that. There's a way for you to take advantage of it. The only thing that's holding you back, it's not your looks, it's not your money, it's not anything like that. It is your ability to know what to say. And I want to show you a system that gives you the exact thing to say, very replicatable system, a very replicatable process that'll help you actually crush in your dating life. And 3.64 ROAS. So it's like,
wait, say that 6?
3.64 ROAS.
3.64 ROAS. That is insane.
3.64 ROAS. So it's like,
wow.
The thing that changed it though was that we're speaking to people who can actually afford the freaking product. And we're actually talking to their core desire. Their core desire was not like, those guys is not sleep with every single one. Maybe some of them is, but for the most part, you know what those guys want? They just want a girlfriend, bro. They just want to meet that special lady. They just want to have that. They want to feel validated. They're like, I'm doing all this work and I can't even get a girl. Like, you have to really insert yourself in the market. It happened to be very convenient for me because I was a part of that market at one point. And also when I was reading through some of these guys' stories, again, doing my research, Reddit, Amazon, all these different things, reading through it, same consistent story again and again and again. They would start like doing work on their dating life, RSD, all these different products, and then they would see no results. And then so they'd go back to money, muscle, game, and they would be like, oh, I'm going to go red pill. I need to read more red pill books. I need to lift more. I need to make more money and everything like that. And then when they finally had enough free time, they would go and do it. And again, they go back. What they're not understanding is that they're really bad at communicating with women. They don't really understand that it's actually very simple. It's very easy to communicate with a woman. You just need to indicate as a high value guy. Like I was at dinner the other day with a friend, and the server was gorgeous. And I was just, in the middle of it, she was like checking someone out at the little POS thing. And I just walked up to her and just talked to her and got her number. I came back and said, did you really just do that just now? I was like, it's not hard. It's very simple. And he was like, okay, what are you saying on it? I'm like, this guy's a multi-millionaire that I'm talking to, and he doesn't understand how simple it is. They don't get it. They think it's this very complicated thing. So it just shows me the whole market is like that for the most part. I don't want to dive into that, but that's one example of it where people's messaging sometimes does not match the demographic they're going after. I see this so much with high ticket coaching where they're selling like a 5K product, but their messaging is more so for a low ticket buyer. Your low ticket buyer, like those are your 0 to 1 people. These are the people who are starting at 0. They don't even have it. Like, I would say that a low ticket product for like the dating market would just be like introducing them to the concept of self-development. And that's it. These are the guys like those deli workers, bus drivers. Those are those guys. They're a low ticket buyer. The high ticket buyer, they're at a different sophistication level. So your messaging needs to appeal to that person right there. And their understanding of the market is they're not dummies. At that point, they've seen a lot of it. They've done the work. They've read on it. They've watched courses. They've done this, whatever it is. In a case of e-com products, they've bought multiple products that maybe haven't worked for them. So like, let's take this, for instance, with, go back to the skincare example. I just like that one because I've worked with them and it's pretty easy. But a skincare example. So again, when I was talking about the different demographics, different messaging, 60-year-old woman versus 25-year-old woman. Okay. The 25-year-old woman is more concerned with the fact, like, let's go even back to number 2, where I was talking about stories. Let's say we had an ad where it starts off with, you wake up in the morning, look in the mirror, and there it is again. Girl sees that first line. She's like, what is that? What's the thing that I'm seeing again? A nice big red pimple smack center in the forehead. And it's just, the girl's like, yes, I've had that. Every single human being ever has had that. It's a cold read. It's like, if I were to tell you, I think you have a scar on your knee. Yeah, because most people have scars on their knees because when they were kids, they fell, scraped their knee. Like, how many kids do you see walking around with a big old scab on their knee?
Yeah.
So it's a cold read. So it's you see a zit on your head. All of a sudden, you realize that dinner that you're going tonight to, you can't take the picture with all the girls. You're gonna have to put on makeup. You're gonna have to figure out something to do. Should you pop it? Should you leave it? Like, I'm just walking through the conversation that's going on in their head, and that messaging. A 60-year-old woman, a 60-year-old woman, she's not even really getting acne at that point. It's more about dry skin and aging skin and stuff like that. But that girl doesn't understand that the reason why she got the acne was because her skin was too oily when she went to bed. And so she needed to put something on her face that's going to reduce the oil a little bit while she sleeps, because you're 8 hours, you're sitting in that oily state. Like, yes, you're going to get, all of a sudden it's going to go right there, and then you're going to have a zit right there. It's going to happen. So that different demographic requires different messaging. Now imagine that what I'm really going after, now it's a different level of income on it. Okay, so let's say that I'm going after these 25-year-old girls, but maybe I'm going after, actually, I have a little bit pricier skincare package. It's like a $400, $500 thing. The 25-year-old girls probably aren't going to be the best ones to go after for that. No. Because are they going to use daddy's credit card and everything on that? No, a lot of them are not going to be the one for that. So we need to go for a little bit of an older audience. Okay, we need to go after a little bit of a 30-year-old audience, probably. Those girls maybe have got their career pumping a little bit, or they're married or something like that. So maybe then what I would do is, in the ad, is talking about, having to hide the cream on the date with your husband later tonight. Okay, different audience, different messaging. I'm appealing to that person. That person has that ability to pay for that. Okay, so I look at this a lot where people have a price point. Let's say you're selling a very high ticket product, but then the price does not match the audience you're talking to in your messaging. Same thing reverses that. Like, you have a low ticket product, but then you're talking to this like very sophisticated, very like advanced market. They're just going to look at it as a scam. I don't even care about it. So understanding this fine game of go back and forth of like understanding, okay, where's my messaging at? Where's my market at? Where's my demographic at? What's the price point at? How do I appeal to that price point on it? Am I maybe talking to the wrong demographic here? It's another big mistake that I see copywriters making. I mean, I think they took a crack at 3 different VSLs before I came in that dating company. Every single one of those copywriters did not understand that, because what are they doing? They're just like, let me make a little bit of a tweak to the last one, or let me just look at what the market's doing. But they don't understand that there's a dynamic difference in the price point, the demographic, the understanding of the market itself. You have to understand the market inside and out. And if you don't already know it, because sometimes I come into it and I'm like, if someone's doing weight loss and it's lifting and everything like that, I know that market. That's easy for me. If I'm dating, I know that market. That's easy for me. But like turmeric, I don't have joint pain just yet. So what do? Amazon, Reddit, stuff I'm doing. You need to understand the market really, really well. This is what allows you to understand the messaging that's going to match the demographic to the point where, and here's the nuke. Here's the nuke. All you're trying to get the person to say is, I've had that experience. That's it. If you can get your prospect to say that, they're sold, because then they know your product solves that problem for them. I've had that experience. That's what you're trying to do in your ads. That's what you're trying to do in your landing pages. That's what you're trying to do in your messaging overall, is get people to say, I've had that exact experience. And that's what really gets people to buy right there. Is it's like, hey, yeah, I have that. I want that problem solved. So those are my 3 things. It's creative brief, first thing. Second one is stories and features. The features and benefits, they're great, all these different things, but writing more stories, those are great. Those are really what's going to help, I think, sell and tell the story behind your brand, tell the story behind. And I didn't even touch on that inside of stories. Is like not just story of your product, but like, how did your brand come to be? Okay, some of you, it was just a drop shipping product. You didn't really care. But others of you, it's a dog food product, and you were really sick and tired of sourcing the same dog food from the place, and it was like dried up, and your dog didn't like it, and they wouldn't eat it, and they weren't getting the proper nutrition. So you started making this, and then all of a sudden your friends started asking for it. It's a great story to tell. Your audience wants to know about that. It's brand education on it. So that's the second part, is the stories. And the third one is understanding your different demographics require different messaging, making sure you're not messing that up with the price point. I don't even know how to distill that down into a title, because it's a very complicated topic that a lot of times I have to come into the brand and like, I have to read surveys of people that are coming through. I need to look at, oh, hey, yeah, you're just selling to the wrong audience, or your price point is for the wrong audience, or your messaging is for the wrong audience right there. So that's the main 3 that I see as massive problems inside the market.
Yeah, dude, I am shocked right now. This is absolutely massive amount of value. So I hope you guys who are watching this right now, those guys who've stuck through for this whole video, you're in for a real treat, because all of these things I can attest to, they've been massive helps in our campaign. Some of these things we've just done subconsciously without even like, having a specific step-by-step process. And Nick broke it down perfectly. So yeah, definitely recommend implementing all of these. I guarantee you will see amazing results with this. But Nick, so for those who currently went through this whole thing and was like, all right, wow, this is really amazing, a lot of value. How do I implement this? And I know, some of you guys are going to take this and run it, try to do it yourself. But some of you guys who are probably wondering, hey, what's some of the next steps? Like, what do you recommend?
So go hire a copywriter. You don't have one. If it's just you doing it, like hire someone that's a professional on it. Is that me? Maybe. Depends. But a lot of the times what I see is that it's a brand or it's an agency and they already have an in-house copywriter and they're working on that. But the in-house copywriter, this is again, like understanding demographics on it. Someone that takes an in-house role is not a super advanced, a very skilled copywriter. Because like I look at myself, why would I limit myself to one client? And because it's a lot of work as an in-house copywriter. Why would I limit myself to my income in that if I know, like, it's like a sales rep, my income is boundless. I can make as much as I want. Why would I limit myself to that? So you have to understand it's a beginner copywriter right there. So what I recently rolled out, this is basically an in-house copywriter training program. And if you need to place a copywriter, we can definitely have you go through a couple of my different people that I know and get you a placed copywriter inside of your team. But it's a coaching program where we take your copywriter and every single week they're getting on calls with me. They're going to be working on your campaigns, your landing pages, your emails, whatever the heck it is. And if you're an agency, it's for your clients and all that. And what we're going to do is every single week, they're going to have a call with me twice a week. And I'm going to be going through and coaching them. Just think about what I've talked about here. Hey, we have a skincare brand, Nick. I need help with this. And I'm going to help them structure the campaign. Hey, here's what I would do for the copy. They need review for their copy. The reason why I'm really excited for this, and I think this is awesome, is I don't see anyone offering this really specifically for in-house copywriters. And the thing is that, like, you look at a sales rep needs coaching. They need someone to role play with, and they need someone to be able to help them improve their selling ability. They need to listen to their calls and everything like that. But nobody thinks to do this with their copywriters. And so they just go through copywriter after copywriter, not thinking I can probably improve the copywriter I have right now. And that's really what my program does. It helps improve that copywriter and supercharge your team. So I have a little special promo for anyone that's watching this that comes from Nick's channel. So there's going to be a link, I'm guessing, in the bio or something like that. I don't know.
Right below this video. First link on the top.
So on that page is a quick little 4-minute video that explains exactly what I do and how this program works and everything like that. Link for you to book a call. If you book a call, mention Nick on the call. That Nick, not me, Nick. If you mention Nick on the call, then what we're going to do is we're actually going to give you a month free of the Voxer voice message support for your team. The reason why that is super badass is that, so we're going to have 2 calls a week. They're at the start and the end of the week. In between that time, though, your copywriter may have questions. Maybe you're the copywriter watching this, or you're the media buyer watching this, and you're like, I need that. I want this program. Well, you have those like days in between. You're going to be able to get constant access to me just throughout the day. Hey, I'm going to drop you a voice note. I'm just going to pop in real quick, drop you a voice note on, hey, Nick, I'm not too sure on this headline right here. What do you think of this right here? And just send it over to me. Boom. I actually think you should tweak it right here and here. That you're gonna get a full month. That's $1,000 a month on the bolt-on for that, but you're gonna get that for free. So anyone that mentions Nick and say, hey, he actually sent me, I watched it from this YouTube video, I'm going to throw that in for free for you. So that's a nice little promo. I had to do a nice little promo for the team. Nick was like, maybe do like 10% off. I'm like, we can make it better than that. We can make it easier than that. We don't need it to just
we got to sweeten up the deal for you guys. But yeah, guys, if you don't know how powerful that is, because yes, you can go implement all this yourself, you'll see really amazing results. But also too, if you do work with someone that's a marketing genius, copywriting genius like Nick, that does help your advantage with your ads and stuff like that. Because a lot of you guys do know that I'm a big advocate for testing new ads on a weekly basis. To improve that messaging, find winners way faster. You find winners faster, it'll increase to allow you to spend more and make more with your brand.
Yeah, 100%. I think that for the most part, if you really want to understand this market in general, like especially just where the state is, doesn't matter whether you're an agency, doesn't matter whether you're a info product, doesn't matter whether you're an e-com brand. We talked about market sophistication. We touched on it very lightly here. There are no limited I honestly can't even name any of market sophistication level 1 or level 2, which is like first to market, second to market. Almost everything is in the stage of mechanisms competing, and everything has been tried. And now the market, like, I mean, most markets are level 4 or 5. The way you get past that is exactly what Nick said right here. You have to test new stuff. Someone has to come in and just change the messaging entirely. When I look at the campaign that I built out for that dating company, copywriter after copywriter tried the same thing. Let's just do this, talk about this, talk about that. No one ever thought to just, hey, why don't we talk like directly to guys' experience and just talk about the fact that maybe they just want a girlfriend. They don't want to have 7 dates a week or anything like that. It's just outside eyes. Sometimes people are a little bit too close to their company, and that's what causes them to stay stuck with the creative.
Absolutely. And I think that's probably the biggest thing that we've been able to help our clients succeed. It's just outside source, different perspective, bringing in those new ideas, and really allows you to change things up with someone that literally specializes this as a living versus, hey, I'm trying to grow a business. Let me try to do ads. Let me try to do inventory. Let me try to do all this other stuff like that. So,
1,000%.
but look, Nick, this has been absolutely impressive. And I'm very happy you came on because, you know, you're also a good friend in real life. But also too, just you provide a lot of value, and you have one hell of a story as well too, which we didn't even get into
Oh my
as
goodness.
well.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother video. So if you guys do want Nick to come back on board, let's get this like at least 50 likes on this video, and maybe we could drop another part 2. We'll dive a little bit more into Nick's copywriting career. But Nick, before we hop off, is there any places that people can follow you?
So Instagram and Twitter is the Man of Meaning. So that's my little side project, my little passion project, the Man of Meaning. If you go on there, there's a link to my Substack as well. I send out emails every single day. I'm actually about to write one up after this call. Those are the main places where I'm producing content on a day-to-day basis. And then Facebook, just hit me up on Nick Verge. That's the best way to get a hold of me if you guys want to get in contact. If you're outside of the in-house stuff and you just want to hire me to like freaking come in and consult on your stuff too, like that's the best way to get a hold of me there. Either way. So I mainly focus on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I gotta step up the YouTube game. You crush these YouTube videos every single week. I'm just like, it's just another platform to add to the carousel of platforms, man.
You know, everything starts, it's honestly easier to be on YouTube and branch out to other platforms than to be on other platforms and branch out to YouTube, because YouTube's 10 times more work, but I can explain more into it after we get off this little call.
Solid. All right, cool, man. Well,
So,
that was awesome. I had a great time sharing some value, and yeah, man, I would love to come back, but obviously the audience needs to approve of that. So love it.
yeah, guys, drop 50 likes below. We'll dive more. Any questions or anything like that, drop it below too as well. We'll be happy to answer it. Make sure that like button, drop a comment below, and hit that subscribe button for new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Thanks again, Nick, for coming on, and we'll chat with you guys later. Peace.